These are the top 20 guitar solos of all time, with literally millions of choices. I've narrowed it down to solos that mean a lot to people and show just how expressive and impressive the guitar can be. So strap in for what might be the most face-melting video I've ever made. Let's go. What's up everybody, how's it going? I'm Brad Dollar, welcome to the channel, it's great to see you. Before we get too far, if you could do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe and the like button, I'd super appreciate it. Seriously, it helps a ton to bring videos like this to more people just like yourself. So thanks so much for doing that, and to hear all of these solos in their entirety without me talking over them, check out the playlist I made below. Let's go. So kicking off our list at number 20 is the solo in Go by M83. Which is played by the legendary Steve Vai. You knew he was gonna make it on this list somewhere. This song came out on M83's 2016 album Junk, and is definitely one of the best songs on that record. What's so great about this solo is that it combines pretty much all of what Steve Vai is known for in like 1.5 minutes of soloing. What I love about this solo is that it seems like it just keeps getting better over time. This solo makes the number 20 spot because it's a tour de force of the best tricks and techniques of modern electric guitar playing. Overall, it's just a really great example of Steve Vai's playing. So check out number 20, Go by M83, featuring Steve Vai. Coming in at number 19 is Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, played by Slash. This solo is considered by many to be one of the best of all time due to its mix of technical skill and just pure soul. This song has also become the quintessential example of what a Gibson and a Marshall stack sound like plugged in together. And as a result, for almost 40 years, the song has caused a ton of tone seeking by guitarists all over the world. The solo is built into two parts. The first is a slower, more melodic section, and by the end, Slash is fully gassed up and we're in fretboard melting territory. I think what so many people connect to about it is that the choices are iconic, but at the same time they feel so improvisational. It feels like if you dug down deep enough, you could pull out something like this. And as a result, it's had a lasting impact on rock music. And it's not speed or complexity that makes this solo impressive. It's this masterful blend of phrasing, bends, vibrato, and really sweet note choice. The magic of the solo just lies in its balance. It's memorable and it's singable, which is why it's number 19 and the greatest guitar solos of all time. Coming in at number 18 is Rise by Extreme, played by Nuno Bettencourt. This solo took the guitar world by storm recently, when a clip of it went viral, and an interview between Nuno and Rick Beato took off. And within a few seconds of hearing this solo, you can tell instantly why it's so quickly become regarded as one of the greatest solos of all time. It's a whirlwind of technical proficiency and melodic creativity. From the second that it launches off, and it truly is a launch, you can tell this is not going to be just a run-of-the-mill solo. What I love about Nuno Bettencourt's playing here is that it feels so unique to him while still giving you a flavor and a taste of the best rock and metal guitar playing that's ever existed. Or in other words, it feels really fresh while so familiar at the same time. And what makes this solo so great and so interesting is that it builds to this climactic moment where you're unsure of what you're really hearing. Is this someone playing with a bunch of delay and it's triplets stacked up? Or is this really Nuno shredding and playing up and down these arpeggios, hammering and pulling off all these progressions? And when you learn that it's really just him playing and there's not a bunch of effects creating that big last run, it really makes you stop and appreciate how great this solo is. And so that's why number 18 is Rise by Extreme, played by Nuno Bettencourt. Coming in at number 17 is The Spirit Carries On by Dream Theater, played by the one and only John Petrucci. You can find this song on the classic and my favorite Dream Theater album, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, which came out in 1999. The solo in this song is a masterclass in beautiful, melodic, soulful playing with a ton of shreds sprinkled throughout. And what the solo does so well is deliver on those expectations. It gives you that comfortably numb kind of feel, but then takes you somewhere else. There are some really exciting moments in this solo. One of the best things about the solo is that it feels like it connects with you and almost comes and goes so fast, like you want to hear it a couple times, but the reality is that it's a very long solo. But it packs such a punch and keeps the song moving in such a fluid way that it truly feels like it's part of the song, not just something laid on top of it. This album, I think, has some of John Petrucci's best guitar playing, but really this song and this solo specifically is a true showcase of the magic he brings to the instrument. And if you were ever wondering what a Music Man and a rectifier paired together sounds like, that's this record, and that's especially this song. So that's number 17, The Spirit Carries On by Dream Theater. Coming in at number 16 is Grange by ZZ Top, This song was originally released in 1973, but honestly, I think it's their most timeless song. This solo is also the sound of digging in. Seriously, you can't dig in much harder than Billy Gibbons is on this song and not break your strings. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure he's playing with like a big coin, like a peso or something. You can hear that in this huge run of artificial harmonics sprinkled in with some tasty licks in between. What makes this solo so great is that for how melodic and powerful it is, it's just as gritty and soulful. And the fact that the song is pretty much held up by this long guitar solo and just a few lyrics really speaks to how excellent this solo and the legendary player that Billy Gibbons really are. So, number 16, Grange by ZZ Top. Coming in at number 15 is Europa by Santana. This song from his 1976 album is often overlooked, but is definitely one of the greatest guitar solos ever played. If you listen to the song just one time, you'll be asking yourself, why don't we talk about this solo more? What's so powerful about this one in particular is Santana's ability to create this incredibly soulful and off-the-cuff feeling solo, while both creating and keeping a very central melody idea present the entire time, which is honestly one of the hardest things to do for any musician. This solo really has it all. Big, heart-wrenching bends, lightning-fast picking, and just classic Santana at its finest. Not to mention, the song has some of the longest held bends and notes I've ever heard in any other song. Some of his runs towards the end, especially when he kicks in the wah pedal, are mind-melting. In the sense that he's shredding and it feels complex, but you hear and feel so much heart at the same time. And that's really the gift that Santana gives to all of us in his guitar playing. And it's also why his solo in this song, Europa, comes in at number 15 on the greatest guitar solos of all time. All right, coming in at number 14 is by Dire Straits. All right, coming in at number 13 for the greatest solos of all time is the solo from Beat It by Michael Jackson, played by Eddie Van Halen. Personally, this might be my favorite guitar solo of all time. It's like a complete bag of tricks of rock guitar playing, mixed with Eddie Van Halen's best bag of tricks, at possibly his best moment in time, on top of a killer song, a killer production, and a great riff, which is also played by Steve Lukather. So getting Steve Lukather and Eddie Van Halen on one song is truly awesome, and definitely makes this solo just that much better. What I love about this solo in particular is that after this moment in time, every other solo through the 80s really tries to capture and sound like this, especially pop guitar solos. Any song that was in the top Billboard 100 at the time, if it had a solo, it was trying to sound like the solo in Beat It. I mean, Thriller is one of the biggest albums of all time, Beat It is one of the biggest songs of all time, and so when you listen to the solo and you think about all of the songs that came after it, all of the soloing that came after it, you can really hear the impact that it made. Like, Eruption is a very important song and guitar solo to guitar players everywhere, but Beat It and the solo in this song has probably reached even more people across the world over time. And so that phrasing, those licks, the combination of his whammy bar dives and tapping, and just some really tasteful note choices and beautiful tremolo picking creates a true climax in the song, and honestly one of the best moments in all of rock guitar history. And so because of the way it fits into this classic song and the way that it really shaped and created that iconic 80s guitar sound is the reason why Eddie Van Halen's solo in this song is number 13 for the greatest guitar solos of all time. And coming in at number 12 are the series of solos in Rosanna by Toto. Seriously, I love Steve Lukather, and the solos in this song do not get enough credit. The first solo is definitely a beautiful, melodic, nice little piece that gets in and gets out and does its job like wonderfully. It's technical and it's got flavor. It's a great pop solo, and it shows off this one flavor that Steve is really known for, his straight session playing. But if you let the song ride until the end, there is an outro solo there that I think really sums up everything that Steve was doing at that time, which was bringing all this world of fusion and jazz from that kind of Steely Dan era of the 70s into this modern 80s pop rock playing that honestly the only other person who maybe has done it better is Eddie Van Halen. And so that last solo has all of it, from his first little intro bendy run to this back-to-back slaughterhouse of licks that sounds like him just pulling out perfectly practiced tricks from all of the greats and putting it into one run. You can even hear, if you listen close, someone in the band expressing joy and a whoo in the background, hearing that solo go down. And you can feel that, and I think that's what makes the solo so great. This is one take. This is him just nailing it. Not to mention it's recorded beautifully by the one and only Al Schmidt. Steve Lukather's solo in this song is a showcase of his melodic sensibility and technical prowess. Luke's use of pentatonic scales, bluesy bends, and melodic sequences comes together to create an extremely catchy solo. All of this highlights his versatility as a guitar player and is what earns this solo a spot at number 12, Rosanna by Toto. Alright, coming in at number 11 is Don't Tell Me You Love Me by Night Ranger. This song is from their 1982 debut album, Dawn Patrol. This is actually a dual guitar solo played by Jeff Watson and Brad Gillis. And what makes it so cool is how well these two solos work together. They're high energy, they're fast, and they're extremely melodic. The phrasing, the note choice, and the techniques are all up there with the greatest guitar players of that time. Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads. The solo fits right in there with them. Whether you want whammy bar dives, pinch harmonics, all kinds of cool staggered pentatonic runs, it's all there. This song is really a shredder's delight. But most importantly, it's not just wild guitar playing, it really lends to the impact of the song. It's vibrant, it's bright, but it's also aggressive and like a little angry. And that's what I love about this solo. By itself, it's impressive, but the way it moves the song along truly makes it one of the best ever. So that's number 11, Don't Tell Me You Love Me by Night Ranger. And I was lucky enough to work with Night Ranger and get to hear Brad Gillis play this solo right in front of me. And not just play it, but play it on acoustic guitar. And if you want to hear more about that story, definitely check out the video I made about it, linked right here and in the description below. So all of this together, the amazing guitar playing, the arrangement, and the way this fits in the song and makes it a great song, makes this number 11 of the greatest guitar solos of all time. Don't Tell Me You Love Me by Night Ranger. We're coming in on our top 10 here. And what do you think about this list so far? Who would you put in your top 20? All right, coming in at number 10 is Always With Me, Always With You by Joe Satriani. This song is from his 1987 classic, Surfing with the Alien. This song and this solo is easily some of the most emotive guitar playing of all time. The phrasing is incredibly lyrical, and you get to hear a lot of great examples of Satriani's like beautiful, fluid legato playing. Everything just sort of like rolls together. There's also some deeply heartfelt and kind of like painful notes throughout that really just grab your soul. And he gets this really thoughtful and sweet melodic idea across while still getting in enough of the flashy elements that keep you interested and engaged. What's awesome about this solo and Joe Satriani's playing in general is that in the 80s, guitar players who could shred were everywhere. For these songs to really stand out and to be heard by the masses and appreciated really speaks to his playing and the ability that it has to touch people. So you bring all of that together with some excellent note choices and dynamics, and you get one of the best guitar moments we've ever experienced. And so that's why number 10 is Always With Me, Always With You by Joe Satriani. Coming in at number 9 is Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, played by Brian May. The song originally came out on their 1975 album, A Night at the Opera, which is a total classic. If you haven't heard it, you must go listen now. Just stop watching this video, go listen to that record. What's so stunning and iconic about this solo is Brian May's use of melody, arrangement, and that amazing vibrato. Freddie Mercury is probably one of the greatest singers of all time, definitely the greatest rock singer of all time, but Brian May matching that with very similar, if not the same energy on guitar is truly one of the most amazing things that you can accomplish with this instrument. And a lot of that is not only his note choice, but that vibrato is just soaring. Even some of those high notes that really get up there, the vibrato matches the tempo and it's pitched so beautifully. There's just something so violin-like about his tone that makes it feel orchestral. But you never feel like you're listening to like an orchestra. You feel like you're listening to one of the greatest rock guitar players of all time. Especially if you get to the end and you hear the stack of harmonies, that it creates this soloing atmosphere that really no other song on this list has. Brian May has a lot of great solos. Brighton Rock is one of them. But this solo, hands down, showcases not just how great of a guitar player Brian May is, but it really shows what guitar playing can do to bring a song to life, which only helps to bring the heart of the song closer to the people who are listening to it. So that's number 9, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. And if you want to hear these solos without me talking over them, just check out the playlist I made for you below. All right, coming in at number 8 is Cliffs of Dover on the greatest guitar solos of all time. All right, coming in at number 7 is Cult of Personality by Living Colour. This is from their 1988 debut album, Vivid. Yet another amazing song and amazing solo on a debut album. This solo might be one of the best uses of a whammy bar ever. And out of every solo on this list, I think this one is the most intense. It's the most expressive, and you can feel Vernon Reid almost just want to like throw his guitar through the wall. You can feel it just coming off of his body and through the speakers. It's chaotic in all the best ways. You don't really know where it's going, but you can feel that he has control of it. In the song itself, there are a lot of emotions. And this solo doesn't just jump in and try to respond to it. It acts like a megaphone for them. It makes you hear all the meaning and the feeling that's behind the words, which is the best thing we can ever hope for from a guitar solo. The solo in this song is explosive. It's a statement of hard funk, of heavy metal, and of punk rock. This is one you just keep hearing even after it's over. Just like nothing else sounds like this solo. Like to this day, there's really no other solo. Vernon Reid is channeling, Jimi Hendrix into this. You're just so unhinged and unchained that this solo is what I wish all guitar players would tap into. To just unchain themselves from rules, from expectations of even what they think they should play, and to really just hear their soul and their heart express themselves through their instrument. And that's what you're hearing in this guitar solo. And that's why it's number 7 on this list. Cult of Personality by Living Colour, played by Vernon Reid. All right, coming in number 6 is Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd, played by David Gilmour. This song is from their 1979 album, The Wall. Out of all the solos on this list, this might be the most melodic one of them all. Every note fills up the arena inside your soul, takes the space between your ears, and occupies every last inch of it. It's the note choice, it's the bends, it's the vibrato, and it's the tone. Also in the landscape of the song itself and the album, it's an oasis of beauty in an otherwise very dark landscape, both lyrically and musically. The solo is like a breath of fresh air in all of that music. It just grabs you and takes you along with it. And like great melodies and great lyrics, what makes this song so enjoyable is that it's so accessible. You could sing it, you can hum along to it, and if you're a guitar player like myself, learning how to play it is actually within your reach. The song can really teach you what feel means on guitar, and how the clever use of a little bit of effects and overdrive and distortion can create this just long, infinite tone that carries notes and the song through its completion. And so that's why number 6 is Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd, played by David Gilmour. Alright, so you knew a solo from this guy was going to be somewhere on this list. Coming in at number 5 is The God That Failed by Metallica, played by Kirk Hammett. There are many solos by Kirk Hammett that could land in the greatest guitar solos of all time. And honestly, picking just one was super hard to do. But The God That Failed, off their 1991 mega album Metallica, otherwise known as the Black Album, perfectly encompasses everything Kirk had done to that point and everything he was going to do after that. It's super well arranged, it's well voiced up and down the fretboard, and really takes you somewhere. It also doesn't feel like overly thought out, but still really supports the song. It's just a great showcase of Kirk's thrash metal roots and his melodic sensibilities that he gets from classic hard rock and blues. I know that other solos from Kirk like One and Master of Puppets give you a little more of that shred flair, but when you zoom out and you listen to the level of expressiveness from this solo, you can easily see what sets it apart. The technical prowess blended with raw emotion is a perfect touch point on this album. Again, another great example of a solo being played for a song and not just being added to it as an afterthought. And so that's why number 5 is The God That Failed by Metallica, played by Kirk Hammett. Alright, coming in at number 4 is a solo and a guitar player that often gets left off these lists but definitely belongs here, and that's Charlie Christian with his song Swing to Bop, performed alongside Dizzy Gillespie. Now, the entire song is pretty much a solo, and from the first moment you hear it, you understand why it stood out both then and now. When Charlie Christian plays, it's not just jazz or classical or traditional music. It's truly the sound of rock and blues guitar playing being born, as well as the genesis of what it means to improvise on guitar. There are lots of greats before and after Charlie Christian, but this solo almost sounds like someone time traveled back to 1941 to play it. With everything in mind, it sounds so futuristic. Within just a minute of the song, you can hear where so many of the solos we just listened to were inspired from. I hear how this inspired Vernon Reid, Mark Knopfler, Carlos Santana, and even Eddie Van Halen, given some of the chromatic choices from Charlie Christian. It's so easy to take for granted that so much of what we consider to be great guitar playing really comes from a technique and style that Charlie Christian developed. It's his playing, and particularly this song, that really helped to propel electric guitar into the second half of the 20th century. And so because of that, it's easy to make this song the number 4 greatest guitar solo of all time. If you guys are enjoying this video so far, please be sure to subscribe and like. I'd love to see you back here again. Coming in at number 3 is Eruption by Van Halen, played by Eddie Van Halen. Eruption is from their 1978 debut album, self-titled Van Halen. It's safe to say that this band, this album, this guitar player, and especially this song, has inspired and keeps inspiring countless guitar players to pick up the instrument and start playing. When you hear this solo, it just makes you think and feel like, I want to do that. Even though in half the song you're like, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you get that sound? It rocks so hard and really is like the definition of shred that you're like, oh, I gotta learn this. I gotta figure out how to do this. The same way that someone gets inspired to play a sport or to be a lawyer or a doctor or really follow anything in life. What you're hearing in Eruption is true guitar excellence. Before this song and this solo, and especially before Eddie Van Halen, there really wasn't a whole lot of tapping going on. There wasn't a lot of whole straight out just whammy bar diving, big crazy pentatonic licks, and rule breaking. Eddie Van Halen just came along and kicked down every door and every wall and reinvented what the instrument meant. And so this song really shaped and continues to shape where guitar playing has gone. Not to mention that a bunch of guitar players on this list were inspired by Eddie Van Halen and this song. So the fact that it stands out as its own song to so many people after so many years is one of the reasons it's so impressive and is why it's number 3 on this list for the greatest guitar solos of all time. Eruption by Van Halen. All right, we're coming up on the end, and honestly, this list was really hard to make, and getting to just these top 20 was hard enough as it is, but these top 2 spots, how do you narrow down millions of guitar solos to just these 2 being the best? Well, we're about to find out together. All right, coming in at number 2 is Mr. Crowley by Ozzy Osbourne, featuring Randy Rhoads on the solo. This song is from Ozzy's 1980 album, Blizzard of Oz. Randy's use of harmonic minor scales, super fast alternate picking, and really precise arpeggios demonstrates his technical skill and musicality. This ability to blend classical and heavy metal influences together so seamlessly is what makes this solo feel so special to the ear right off the bat. What makes it legendary though is that he tripled it. He played it not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row. You hear this solo, it jumps through the speakers, it surrounds you. And if you listen close, you can hear some of the tiny imperfections of things sliding around, but it really feels like a spell being cast on you. It feels like something magical is happening around you. I know it doesn't sound like it because it's so tight, but the reality is that he always doubled, if not tripled, all of his guitar solos. There's a lot of stories of people in the studio with him where the first one was, of course, really hard to get down. He would work really diligently on it and make sure that all the parts work together and to get just a really strong take. And sometimes they would comp that one together, but he would always just go back and learn it and play it a second time and a third time. It sounds like he's using like a chorus or like a slap delay, but that's just 3 of the most amazing guitar parts played back to back to back. If you've ever tried to write a solo or play a solo, when you get something magical, it's kind of like, am I ever going to be able to do that again? Bands like the Grateful Dead exist on this principle of like knowing the really powerful solos are kind of rare and few and far between. But Randy Rhoads just laid this thing down 3 times in a row. And it truly is one of the most expressive guitar solos of all time. There's a crazy liquid sort of feel to it. It feels like a snake weaving around the fretboard. There's a strong blues rock feel to it. His classical influence is in there as well. And it's just a really well-rounded solo that doesn't just shred your face off, but actually propels the song forward. I don't think you could just play anything over that part and get the same feeling that Randy Rhoads conjures with the solo in Mr. Crowley. All right, and that's number 2, Mr. Crowley, played by Randy Rhoads on Ozzy Osbourne's 1980 classic, Blizzard of Oz. All right, coming in at number 1 is All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix. If you're watching this video, Jimi Hendrix probably doesn't need much of an introduction, but if you needed one, this song would be the one to do it. Originally a song by Bob Dylan that Jimi covered, you can find this song on his 1968 album, Electric Ladyland. Jimmy's soloing pretty much the entire song. Each little phrase he does is like magic. You have to keep in mind that before this moment, you really weren't hearing these kinds of sounds coming out of an electric guitar. If there was one song that any guitar player had to pick up and learn to really understand how to really phrase things, how to make very melodic choices that connect back to the song as a whole, it would be this song. It would be this solo. And there's no other solo on this list that combines this sort of guitar mastery and expression with effects and making that such a loud statement in the solo itself and really bringing the song to life. The song jumps out of the speakers. The resources available to them in 1968, it's amazing that it still has this energy to really reach out and grab you and pull you in. And when you hear the solo, you're listening to innovation happening. It would be the same thing as like going back and watching a video of the first computer being made. The world as a whole had never really heard anyone play guitar like that before. I don't think anyone had ever really heard someone play an instrument like that before. And with that, it's really easy to see why this is the best solo of all time. All right, and there you have it, folks, the top 20 greatest guitar solos of all time. If you haven't already, definitely check out the full solos and the full songs in the playlist I made for you below. Each solo on this list represents a unique blend of technical mastery, emotional depth, and creative innovation that has shaped the landscape of guitar playing. So you tell me, which one is your favorite? Did I leave something off the list that you wanted to hear? Let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'd love to see you back here again. Please hit subscribe and like to make that happen. Looking forward to seeing you again. Bye.